You're listening to Death Takes a Holiday, a Middle Falls podcast on KMFR Radio with your host, Matthias Dexter Frost. Today's guest, Chris Dexter.
My name is Matthias Dexter Frost. This is my husband, Christopher Dexter.
Hi.
Wow, was this a process trying to get this set up? I had all day and I still didn't get it done correctly. And it took about an hour to get set up after he finished eating. But we're here now. We're going to go for about half an hour and talk about the unusual second life of Thomas Weaver. This is the first entry in the Middle Falls time travel series. And I first picked this up about 2.5 years ago, November. I started listening to it on the way home from a gig at the Rusty Nail. I couldn't stop listening to it. When I got home, I even kept listening to it until I fell asleep with it playing. And I think I devoured it in like 3 days because I listen to audiobooks while I drive and before I go to bed. Recently, when I started doing this podcast, I said, you know what? I'm just going to ask people close to me to take a listen to this book and see what they think of it. You're going in blind. You never heard it before, except in snippets every now and then.
Right. I mean, because you listen to his audiobooks throughout his series, and I understand the concept of the stories. And I would hear it in bits and pieces, but never in really concentrated listening until recently.
Yeah, I'm 23 books in the series. Sometimes you might not know which character I'm on, and you don't know the characters by name. But you recently started listening to this book, and we're about what, 12 chapters in?
We finished chapter 14, I think. Yeah.
So we're right at the part where, again, if you haven't read the book, it's probably going to be a few spoilers in here. We're not even at the ending yet for him. So
no, I'm only 14 chapters in, so we're nowhere near spoilers unless you haven't started the book.
Yes. So quick recap. Thomas Weaver wakes up in his 15-year-old body in 1976. His brother is still alive. His brother died in a car wreck while Tommy was driving him home from a party. And then Tommy died in 2016. The next thing you know, he wakes up in his young body and his brother's still alive. He's got to figure out how he's going to save his brother's life and also navigate being 15 years old again and going to high school in 1976. What were your thoughts about the book when you started listening to it?
Well, I'll be honest, the beginning is incredibly dark, incredibly sad, too. It was a couple of really sad chapters. I mean, the fact that Tommy lost his brother, Zach, just is crazy. And the full detail of it, that is one thing that I so far have appreciated about Sean's writing is the picture that he paints with his words is incredibly vivid. I felt like as I was listening to that chapter, I literally was visualizing it. I could see the accident happening as it was being described. It was really heavy. And then when Tommy couldn't recover, he couldn't forgive himself 40 years later for what had happened, then he had planned to kill himself. Then he wakes up 6 months prior to the accident, I think it is. But the first 3-4 chapters, oh my God, it was so depressing.
Yeah, it was really heavy. And the first time I heard it, I didn't really know where it was going. It starts off in the past. In 1976, when the accident occurs, we've all been to teenage parties, right? I mean, we're children of the 80s. We went to these parties and we were around people that were consuming a little bit too much and probably shouldn't have driven home.
Also being part of that, too, that crowd, the getting drunk crowd much earlier than you should be.
The description of the party I found, it was awesome. I was there. The campfire, the scene on the lake that they called the beach. Even though I grew up in a coastal town and you grew up on Staten Island, we went to a lot of lakes when I was a kid, and they were always called the beach, and it was like the worst beach ever. That's not even really a beach. It was just some gravel and some mud.
Right.
There were no waves. The lakes didn't have waves. They were fun when you were a kid. I like swimming in lakes a lot, so I kind of got that vibe. The cutoff jeans that used to come like all the way up, almost like male Daisy Dukes. Guys were wearing them that short, too.
Yeah.
Definitely paints that picture of it being 1976. When I hear that story, I imagine Zach as being portrayed by a young Kurt Russell. The wavy hair, kind of like how he was in Guardians 2. But back in the day when he was doing all those Disney movies, The Strongest Man in the World, pre-Escape from New York.
Right. When Disney wasn't doing too well in the 70s.
Yeah. Disney did not have a good time in the 70s and some of those movies. We'll talk about them another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had tears in my eyes when the crash happened. And then just to see how he carried that guilt through the rest of his life from that point on. His father's not in the picture. It's just Tommy and his mom after his brother died. And it's just really sad. It's a sad existence. It was really heavy just to go through those other chapters where he's just depressed. He loses his job. He's an alcoholic. You really feel the crushing weight of those first few chapters. But then when he wakes up in 1976, once you get past the disbelief of it all, you start feeling hopeful. Here's somebody who has a chance to do it again, or so he thinks. He doesn't know if it's temporary if you're just going through moments of your life.
Right.
But once he realizes that this is it, for better or worse, he tries to do things a little bit differently. I love it when he ends up talking to his friends as if he's still 56 years old. You're going to appreciate having those braces when you're older. The kid looks at him like he's got 3 heads. So that's always, that's pretty great. What is your impression if you woke up and you were 15 years old and you were back at your high school in Staten Island? What would you think? Bam, you just wake up, you're 15 years old. It's what, 1985?
It would be, well,
1986?
Yeah, 85. Well, 86, because November is when I was born. So let's say 86. I would have been a sophomore, yeah.
So what was your sophomore year like? What do you remember about that time in your life?
Well, I wasn't part of the cool crowd. I was very nerdy and overweight. But yeah, I wasn't in the cool group at all. But I did wind up joining the theater crew, and oddly enough, met the friends that I have had, and still do for a while. But yeah, sophomore year wasn't fun, honestly.
I moved in the middle of sophomore year. It was 1988. I remember moving in April of '88. I remember the song "Angel" by Aerosmith being big on the charts at that time. Because when we moved, you ever have it?
For 85?
Yeah,
okay.
For my sophomore year. When we moved, I can remember the smell of fresh cut wood because we built a stairway to go up to the top of the house. And whenever I smell that, I hear that Aerosmith song in my head. So I'm sure that you've had that too, where a certain smell or atmospheric feeling or whatever will sort of trigger that memory of where you were or what songs are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
I love how Sean will occasionally incorporate that into his books. That's kind of what helps you feel.
Right, exactly. Definitely. I mean, I think 86 was, I'm just trying to remember the big albums. I mean, there was, wasn't Aerosmith's Run DMC was 86 with Walk This Way.
Walk This Way, I think, was before, it was before 87, which is when Vacation came.
So, and it's weird because at least, Aerosmith was a 70s band too, so it kind of fits in because it really was their comeback. But yeah, 86 had Notorious and Duran Duran. There was, I think, wasn't Bon Jovi's
Slippery When Wet.
Slippery When Wet was, I mean, so yeah, there was a whole but there was a different change in 80s sound. It was going from cool eclectic new wave to arena rock sound. Top 40 was starting to have a much more commercial sound than it ever did.
Tommy Weaver is relatively young for a lot of his protagonists. A lot of them are born in like the late 50s, early 60s. So they come of age a little bit earlier. You'll hear a lot of 60s and 70s songs that he references in there from the earlier part of the 70s. Trampled Underfoot by Led Zeppelin plays a big role. It's the track that's playing when the car crashes.
Yeah.
And it also triggers memories for him later on. One of the things that Sean does, which I don't think I could do personally if I were to try to write a book, is he will listen to a song on repeat over and over again while he's writing. And I think I would just get too distracted by the music. Oh, that's a cool drum. And my mind would be out of it, squirrel mind. So if you were to write a book, what song would you listen to on repeat if that's something that you think you could do?
God, I don't know if I could just listen to a song on repeat.
Or pick an album.
From 86?
It doesn't have to be 86. Like, for whatever point in your life that music brings you back to.
There was an album I said I recently... Well, actually, it was an 85 album. Songs from the Big Cheer from Tears for Fears was an album I played constantly. And I think if I was going to write a book, I would probably have that on in the background a lot.
I love that record. Head Over Heels was huge for me. I loved that song when it came out, and I was in junior high school. I was 2 years behind you. So this was 86, like you said. I was in 8th grade.
Right.
I remember listening to that on my Walkman. We all had Walkman with cassette players. I actually didn't even have that cassette. I actually taped it off of the local radio station.
Well, that was what we used to do back in the day, too, was we would wait for the DJ to stop talking, hit record, and then just right at the point where it was either going to fade or go into another song, or if you heard the DJ take a breath and you thought he was going to talk, click, that was your recording.
That's what you had to do. Or you had to just go back and find that and just press the record button. But
over it to start another song.
But it was never a short clip when you did that. It wasn't a hard stop. It was just like
Right.
And then you still get that. I used to hate when the DJs would hit the post. It's an art form. Don't get me wrong, but I hated it because you're talking over the whole intro of the song that I want to hear.
Exactly. And music is music. You want to hear it, not hear a DJ. And this is coming from someone who did DJ in college. I would always like to try to get as much music rather than not talk about it, although I would segue songs together, though. As one's ending, I would have one start, really mesh them together as good as I can.
You still do that to this day. One thing
Thanks.
about Chris that he does that I love is he has these things called music trains. And it's been something he's been doing as long as I've known him, as long as we've lived together, especially. Is he'll just curate songs while he's doing something around the house or if we're just listening to music. And he'll say, I want to play DJ. And he'll go in and he'll just start linking one song to another to another. There's something about the song he plays, then the next song he plays, there's something that's linked to that song.
Whether it be a connection with the song title or artist or just the subject matter. Let's say songs about winter, because it's winter right now. If I had songs about winter that not necessarily had the word winter in the title, I would still connect them together.
Yeah, you would find a way. And sometimes, we haven't done it in a while, but we would have dueling music trains where we would sort of play tennis. One of us would pick a song and then the other one would have to find a link to that song and then just keep the volleys going back and forth. That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun.
We should do that one.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, as far as writing a book, I would have
Songs from the Big Chair.
Yeah, Songs from the Big Chair.
It's a great album.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm really not sure. I think maybe it depends on what part of my life I'm trying to evoke. If you had to put me on the spot and say, pick your favorite record of all time right now, I don't think I could. But I would probably say that somewhere a Devin Townsend record would be in there. Like, I love Empath.
Right, but this is, you're saying,
yes,
from that time period, though, because
this would be 2019. That's what if I were reborn in 2019.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we were going with the concept of that you were back in 1986.
It's more along the lines of, if I were to write a book, what album would I want to listen to? It doesn't have to be.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm just saying it would.
That was my answer specifically for 1986. I was on the impression that. So I'm sorry. So that is one of my favorite albums of all time, but I would probably have something different because I honestly thought we were specifically talking about 86. One of my favorite albums of all time is Ben Folds' Rock in the Suburbs, so that would probably be on the background.
You know, that's got some pretty heavy songs.
It does,
like
actually.
Emotionally heavy songs.
Fred Jones.
The one, what's the second song on there? The Not Fighting It song?
Still Not Fighting.
Still Not Fighting. That song punches me in the guts.
Yeah.
A lot of his songs do.
Yeah.
The Luckiest.
Well, The Luckiest wound up being our wedding song.
Yeah. Actually, before that, we went to see Ben Folds. He took me in 2010 to see Ben Folds in concert.
He was not initially a fan.
I didn't know any songs.
I converted him with bringing him to that concert.
I only knew Brick and Rock in the Suburbs title track, and that was it. I didn't know any Ben Folds songs. I heard them in the background now and then, but never really listened to them. So when I saw him in concert, I was blown away, number one. And then he played The Luckiest, and I'm sitting next to him with tears streaming waterfalls down my face, crying because of how much I love him. And everybody else around us noticed us and were like, oh, like they were giving us like a little bit of support there too. But yeah, that was an amazing experience.
2010 at the Hershey Theater, Hershey, PA.
Yeah. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's almost 16 years ago. It was like in summertime. It was 15 years ago. All right. Well, so speaking of time travel.
Yeah.
So going back to the book, just curious as to where you think it's going to go now. I'm not going to say anything.
Well, there were a couple of chapters that were completely not necessarily aligned with the story of what was going on, in which it seemed like there were aliens or some kind of other being looking upon this situation that Tommy has gone back into being a teenager. Right. And I think you called them Watchers.
They're Watchers.
Knowing those two chapters I've come across so far, and then with the other story, I don't know. It's really interesting. It's kind of, I was thinking of, what was that? Umbrella Academy, where there was, well, at least in the TV show, there was this upper executive offices where they had files on everyone and all these people.
It was sending people back through time with the briefcase.
Right, exactly. Right. So that's immediately
another great time travel series.
Yeah, so that was immediately what came to my mind when I was listening. I was almost thinking that these were employees of that bureau, but I'm sure it's not necessarily the same. Another thing that came to my mind was It's a Wonderful Life, when the angels are going to send Gabriel to help George Bailey to get through his thing.
Gabriel, they send Clarence.
Exactly. Sorry, not Gabriel, Clarence, excuse me. So there are definitely watchers or participants that are watching or viewing this for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what yet, but just knowing that that's going on while this time travel thing happens is really interesting, because clearly they're orchestrating it, or at
Right.
least they created the scenario for this to happen. He has got a couple of options. He wants to definitely try to save his brother from dying. He still has that possibility of happening. And plus he met Michael Hollister, I think it was the
Michael
guy's
Hollister.
the serial killer that he became a well-known serial killer later on, but he wound up being in Tommy's classes, or at least Tommy's school. And now he's wondering, is there a way that he could possibly prevent all these victims from dying?
Right.
So that's where I'm at right now. I haven't gone any further really from that, but it's interesting to see, because of course you want him, just knowing what you know so far, you want him to save his brother.
Right.
You want him to somehow prevent the murders that Michael Hollister wind up doing. Based upon another thing that you and I had watched, I think it was 1969, where it was, what's his name?
11/22/63.
That was
a Stephen King book.
Yes.
That I have read. I think I've read it or listened to it twice. And then there was a Hulu series. If you haven't seen the Hulu series, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Good adaptation. It's like 10 episodes with James Franco's in it. It's really good.
But he had he had the possibility of trying to prevent the Kennedy assassination. And every time he made an attempt to try to do it, I think it was still going to happen anyway. There was also somebody in that story that wound up telling him, no matter how hard you try to change events, they're not going to change. So I don't know if this is going to be the future for Tommy and Zach and Tommy and Michael Allister, but you kind of want it to end or go in a positive direction. But time is funny. You know, I mean, sometimes things are going to happen regardless of it. There's a lot of things in our past that you would never think would happen, but somehow they have. Even if you would try to attempt to not have it happen, it's going to happen anyway.
Sometimes it's that paradox where in trying to prevent something bad from happening, you inadvertently cause it to happen.
Right,
like
right.
12 Monkeys, for example.
Right. Or the movie Election.
Yes.
Where Matthew Broderick's character, Mr. McAllister, I remember the last name was McAllister, he tried to prevent Tracy Flick from winning, or at least give someone else a chance, because she was very much poised to win the election, because at that moment she was not contested at all. So he manages to get this other person to run against her, and then it winds up that this person's sister also gets involved, and it just winds up becoming one big mess. And I remember, what's her name? Reese Witherspoon's voiceover for Tracy Flick saying that no matter how hard you try to make things not happen, it's still going to happen anyway. And you're just going to wind up being miserable. That could be a premise here too.
I think the thing that Tommy right now in the book where he's at is he doesn't necessarily know how his future will pan out.
Right.
Because he's woken up in 1976, and at this point he's maybe a month or two back. He's heading towards summer vacation. He hasn't woken up in another part of his life. As far as he knows, okay, I died in my future, but now I'm here. What happens if I do change the event? Will I go back to where I was, not having killed myself? I think there's got to be a little bit of course, people who know the series know exactly what happens there. But for the first-time reader, they might not know what's going to happen if he manages to succeed and save his brother's life or stop Michael Hollister from committing all these murders or preventing him from even starting. Tommy doesn't know what's going to happen to him.
Right. And he's only 15. I mean,
not 15 now.
Right. Well, that's true, because he's got the mind of a
he still has all of his memories.
40-ish year old or 50-year-ish.
I think he was 56.
He's now got the knowledge and wisdom of someone that age in a 15-year-old mind now. At a 15-year-old brain, you don't know how you're going to fix this. But at a 50-something-year-old brain, he might be able to.
If you're 15 years old, even if you catch a hint that one of your classmates is doing something evil, you're not going to follow him through the woods.
No.
At 15 years old, if I got the whiff that this person was doing some demented things, I wouldn't be eager to follow them into the woods by myself.
Right.
But if I have, even if I'm in my 15-year-old body, but I have the mind of a 56-year-old, I'm still going to think I'm 50. This punk kid's not going to be able to blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to go follow him.
Right.
You get that little bit of bravado given the experience you got. And speaking of that chapter, wasn't that edge of the seat?
Absolutely.
That was such a great chapter where he's following Michael in the woods and he discovers a secret lair that he has, and it's just disturbing. I'm not going to spoil it. If you haven't read the book or listened to the book, I can't spoil it. Even if I wanted to, just know that there should probably be a content warning if somebody's easily triggered by certain acts of brutality. So
Yeah.
he does get pretty dark. I like that there is a certain element, and I know he's going to love this compliment. There's a certain Stephen King element. There's maybe a little Stand By Me in there, and there's a little bit of coming of age all over again.
Right.
I'm glad that you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I hope you finish it and we talk again at some point soon.
Absolutely. Definitely. I'm sure I will. I will admit, I'm not as much of a reader as you are. I really don't read books that often unless it's actually shoved in my face or forced on me as far as like an audio book. The Harry Potter books, let's say, I read those only because my friends were reading them, and I fit in the way they were talking about it. I felt like I was being left out.
Yeah, and you affected me with that too.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing is I'm more of a film nerd than a book nerd. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to finishing this and possibly continuing the whole series, or not the series, but his catalog.
We got into Jonathan Kellerman, who wrote the Alex Delaware doc.
Yes.
We listened to all of them to date, and then every couple of years he puts one out. We still listen along. They're good stories. It's typical LA modern neo-noir detective thriller, psychological thriller. So, I mean, there's always somebody murdering people in LA. Before I let you go, since I know you are a film geek and I am as well, what that you could think of right now off the top of your head, what is your favorite time travel movie?
It's something that I go back to a lot, and I have it on DVD, and I'm lucky I have it on DVD because I know it's rare and out of print probably. Time After Time. It's a movie from 1979, stars Malcolm McDowell and Mary Steenburgen. If it's not her first film, it's one of her first films.
And I think David Warner's in it.
David Warner's in it, and actually, I'm glad you mentioned his name because I will mention he plays Jack the Ripper. The movie is Jack the Ripper happens to be good friends with H.G. Wells, except they don't realize this until the cops are actually looking for John Leslie Stevenson, I think was the real name of Jack the Ripper, or at least the name of his character in the story. And as the cops are trying to close in on him, H.G. Wells had just presented to him and his friends that he built a time machine and plans to use it. Well, that's what he uses to escape, and he goes from 1700s England, 1800s Victorian London to San Francisco, 1979. And I'm not going to go any further, but it really is... It's a drama, of course. It's actually a thriller because now you've got Jack the Ripper running around San Francisco in 1979 with a whole new slew of victims. And it's also somewhat comical because you've got Malcolm McDowell, who plays H.G. Wells, trying to understand 1979. So it's really interesting. So,
isn't there a scene where he tries to drive a car, like a small BMW or something?
Yeah, like a small Volkswagen Rabbit or something. Yeah.
You showed me that movie and I ended up really liking it a lot.
Yeah.
It's just so great to see Malcolm McDowell, who played one of the greatest film villains of all time, Alex DeLarge in A Clockwork Orange. You know, he's playing a very mild-mannered H.G. Wells. It's a great take on his original story, The Time Machine. It's a really cool twist to see Jack the Ripper set loose in 79 San Francisco. So yeah, I really dig that movie.
Just to tie in a weird other time thing, the director of Time After Time was also the writer or director of one of the Star Treks that dealt with also going into San Francisco.
Star Trek 4.
It's the same writer-director of that movie did that one as well. It's interesting that it dealt with time travel and San Francisco.
I loved Dr. McCoy in that one when the patient needs dialysis. Like, dialysis? Very barbarian. He gives the guy a pill and cures him. And Scotty invents transparent aluminum, which is like one of those loop paradoxes where something doesn't exist until somebody goes back in time to invent it, and then it exists, but only because somebody goes back in time to invent it. It's just sort of a loop that retreads itself. I don't think the Middle Falls, for those of you who know the series, know Middle Falls time travel doesn't really work that way. When you die, it's a one-way ticket back to that point where you started, and then you just go day by day into the future. There's no going back to where you were. I think Hulk in the Avengers explained it. It's like if you depart from the present and go to some point in the past, then the present you left now becomes your past, and you just keep moving forward. So it sort of splits.
Right. It rewrites your history.
Yeah, but once you depart that timeline, you're not in that timeline anymore. If you change events, you're in a new timeline.
Right. Exactly. It's a fresh slate. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for talking to me. I just want to thank you for being very supportive.
And I'm very honored to be a part of this.
The whole setup here was a process. It was a process, believe me.
Mm.
And I even forgot to put my glasses on, so I look like, Scully McGee over here. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for tuning in, or people don't tune into podcasts. They just listen, right? Everybody tunes in.
Well, being that we have video, they will tune in. So
Well, they'll just click it.
they'll watch.
They'll
and listen.
watch.
Watch and listen.
Watch. So if you're seeing this on YouTube, thank you very much. Please leave a like, subscribe, mash that bell, as the kids say. I'm saying mash that bell. Just ring the bell if you want it. If you don't, you don't. But I'd like you to. All right. Thank you very much. We will see you on the next episode. Peace.
Bye.